Hi, this is Jason. I'm going to show you how to do some importing of a MIDI file, assign some sounds to it, to organize it, and in a really logical way, name it, color code it, use a tempo track, change tempo, use a timeline, and then use step record to put a little rhythm to it. So here goes. I have a file, and it is Old MacDonald. It's a MIDI file. And if I just play it, I can. MIDI files can be played on any system. Here, it's opened in Windows Media Player. It's just not that exciting, okay? Now, what I want to do is literally just drag and drop it. I have it off screen, and you may have to minimize to do this, but I'm going to let go now. So any MIDI file could be brought through that way, or you could use the Browse Files menu as well. Here it is now. What has populated will not have any sound because there's no sounds right now. I want to organize this. I've got this pretty large right now, and that's on purpose. If it was small, I'd probably have a hard time telling them who's doing what. Well, there are 10 tracks here, but let me make it a little bit bigger. I like to go medium. And I noticed right away these two tracks right here are similar, all right? They actually are the same. I would know that if I went into the edit menu and looked at it. And here's a way, if you don't see the track list here in the edit menu in the piano roll, click on the track list. And I want to see player one as well. And a good way to see if they are the same or not is to even make them different colors. There we go. You see how one is green, the other is blue, and it looks like they are the exact same notes. I want to make sure they're both the same color, so again, I'm going to put them on blue. I could do that here, I could do it up here. There's just different places you could do the same types of things. Now, I'm not going to hear anything, but I do want to assign a sound to this. Before I do that, I want to just say this is flute 1, and this is going to actually be flute 2 because they're the same thing. Now, how do I assign an instrument to two different tracks? Well, the answer is there's a couple different ways. If I go to Browse Instruments, and I want to go to, where's my woodwinds at? Winds and brass, okay. I'm looking for a good old flute. Hey, there's even a flute 1 and 2. If I wanted to do it this way, say I grab a flute sound, I drag and drop it onto flute 1. It brings up this little flute presence, and it only gives me the range of the flute, okay, as well. That's fine. If I go to flute 2, I don't have to drag and drop that again. The reason why is in the mix window, I now have a channel that's going to work with flute, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. But I can just go over here to where it says this little instrument icon in the track list here, and I can just pull down presence. Now, there is a problem. If you keep pulling instruments from presence, it's just going to say presence. I really don't like that feature. So, what I'm going to do is go back into one of these instruments by clicking on the keyboard icon, Instrument Editor, and up here you can actually rename these. So, you might want to say flute. And if you really want to have the word presence in there, you can do that as well. So, I have renamed it Flute Presence. And that will make a whole heck of a lot more sense when I go to other tracks and I'm looking for, because if they all say presence or presence 2, presence 3, I'm not going to have a clue what's going on. It's also good in your mix window to go in there. It says flute presence here, but for me, I'm so picky, I really want my mixer to say that as well. So I might just say flutes here. So each track of these are all going to output here to the flutes thing right here. So both of these tracks will go to the exact same channel in the mixer. If I don't want that, I instead need to assign either the same instrument like flute again, or flute 1 and 2. You know, just to be fun, let's do this the other way. Flute 1, I'm going to drop here. It wants to know if I want to combine it. No, let's just load it, okay? Now I have flute 1, and it's just going to that track. Now again, I probably should really go in here and rename this. I wish it would just do it, but flute 1 presence. Now, why did I do that? Because now I'm going to grab flute 2 and drag it here. So, load. And here is flute 2. Now again, I want to see if these instruments have a different channel here in the mixer. And they don't. So let me say none. There we go. Now that I have it on none, what did I do wrong? Well, I had it on the flute 1. If I go to none, now it'll let me drop something else on there. Now I have, oh look, presence again. So what should I do? I should rename it. When I rename it, I'm going to say flute 2. Okay. So I'm going to hit OK. There it is. Now, if I want to have the word presence back there, sorry, I can actually put the word presence here as well. All right. And then the reason for doing that is to have a little extra mixing control. Now I would have just a channel for flute 1, and I would have a channel for flute 2. They're still color-coded together, but they have their own specific channels if I want to do fun stuff with them, like pan them out a little bit or together, or one just a little bit wider than the other, or have different effects on them or whatever. So that is the basics of how to arrange and reassign. So each one of these, I would want to make sure have different colors, and I like to really offset them and choose bright colors. So let's get wild here. Oh man. And I do like to use my mouse as well. Ooh, purple. Cool. And let's see, have I used like a brown or an orange or something? There we go. So it looks like, hey, they're all pretty different now. Now they're in sets of 2. And then I would go through and I'd have a whole heck of a lot of fun grabbing and assigning things. Now, while I'm on the woodwinds, wouldn't it be wise, these 2 are oboe, for example, to go and start having fun here. Now, I like uber control. So for me, I like to assign a different instance of a virtual instrument, like hit this, to every single one, so I can just have a channel in the mix window for each instrument. That's me, okay? Notice I'm doing some naming on the fly here real quick, and this is, yeah, oboe 2, very good. If I don't want to do that, I can just choose the oboe, but I do want to do that because, again, I'm using the exact same patch, but I just want to have that separate channel in the mix window. So again, this one I'm going to rename for time's sake. Oboe 2, I'm going to leave out the word presence. Again, in the mix window, I would want to go there and rename that as well. Okay, so there's my oboes. So it gives you an idea of how everything is. Let me show you the color coding. That's staying the same. By the way, why isn't this changing colors? Darn it. Well, let's see. Go to the wrench icon, colorize track controls. Oh, yeah, there it is. Like those colors. If your colors are not showing up in the mix window, use the wrench icon. And let's see. There it is. You know, the gray is too boring for me. I want to see the color all the way through. Yay! All right, so it makes me happier. So I would do that for all of them. Now that I've assigned sounds, I want to use the tempo track. So up here, there's a tempo track. And say I want to start with 120. That's my tempo. And then at the very end of this arrangement, and I'm going to make this smaller on purpose here, we are going to make it faster. So let's just pick a spot here real quick. And I'm going to hit insert tempo. I would say I'm going to go to 130. So all of a sudden, when I hit that measure, it's going to speed up. Now, say at the end, just to know how to do it, I want to right click. So I went to the very end of the piece. I'm going to right click and I'm going to do what's called a time signature change. I'm doing it just to show you how to do it. 3, 4, I would do. And what would happen is if the music got there, and then say I'm composing, all of a sudden I want to change time signatures, there, I did it, and all the measures changed to 3, 4 from that measure on. There's the tempo track, there is the time signature change. And now, what about velocities? So here's one thing to look at. I'm going to go to the edit menu. And in the edit menu, there is, oftentimes you will just have one instrument popping up, and that's it. So I'm going to actually take all of these out of view. you will see this. And this drives me crazy because I want to see how it goes with the rest of the music. So what I want to do is I want to see flute 2, oboe. So I'm going to turn on all of these in my view. They're in the background, but the only one that I'm editing is the blue one that has a blue pencil. Well, let's get really wild. You can edit all of the MIDI at the same time, especially I just clicked and held my mouse and dragged down, especially if you want to go and grab all of their velocities and such. What I'm going to do is this. Say your music shows up, and unfortunately, if it's been done in a notation software, they would all look like this. So a lot of notation software, it just looks like stale. There is no dynamic involved or anything. So how do I fix that? What do I do? Well, notice all of these are MIDI controls of some kind, which is great. But velocity is the one that's almost the most important. Every note that's played can have a different volume. That's very human-like. Now, one of the best features is this. So I have all of these in my view in a piano roll. They're all different colors, which helps. And in order to edit all of them, I have to have the pencil icon. So if I only want to edit, say, a few, I got to take the pencil off of certain ones. Now I would go through and grab them, right-click. You can also go to the action menu, and under musical functions, there is this really cool, there's several things in here actually, where velocity is one of them. There's randomized notes, and randomized notes, a lot of people think, what is that? Well, velocity is one of the things you can randomize. Pitch is another thing. You could really use that for some sound design and stuff, but I'm going to click on velocity. Range-wise, let's see, these are at 60. So I want them to be anywhere from, let's say, 60-ish. So I could pull this slider to, let's see, 0 to 60. Let me pull this other side here. I don't want it to go that low. So 60, and then we'll pull it back here to like 80-ish or so. That's a nice little range. Now, strength-wise, it wants to know how strong you want the notes. I'll leave it at 100%. You could do that with the note length as well. That's all I want to do. Now, when I hit OK, you see how they all change up. Wow, how about that? And let me just pull this up. So you see how they're all quite different now, which is great. Now, say, for example, that at the end, hey, there's all my colors. Say bars 25 to the end, I want everyone to get louder. A couple ways to do this. I just took my mouse here and clicked and held and dragged to bar 25. And you could zoom in to be more exact. And again, I've got them all highlighted over here. I can right-click. I can do several things. One, I can say velocity, and I can add to 20%. And that's a really great way. I could set them all to something, which I probably wouldn't want to do. I can multiply or add again, play around with it. I'm going to hit it, wow, and then it really boosts them all up. So that gives you an idea that at this last section, I want them all to be loud, but I still want some of those dynamics in there. There are other ways to draw in dynamics, like with my pencil. I could draw lines and fun little, little things like that even. Or if I want the whole group to do a crescendo, these are really quick and easy ways using some serious MIDI to edit. And wow, that's a step-by-step kind of thing. Last but not least, so say I've got all of this ready to go. I love it. It's wonderful. But I also want to play with the timing a little bit. Let me get back on my arrow. I can grab them all, right-click, and there's a cool function called Humanize. Where to go? What Humanize will do is this. You can mess with the velocity range. So I'll say, okay, yeah, let's not overdo it too much. Let's tweak it there. And then, so it's going to add either -8 or +6 to the velocities that are already there. In fact, I might not want to go too wild as far as it's already pretty loud. Note start range, that deals with the rhythm. So if I want some notes to come in a little early, or I could do something crazy like that, right? Let me hit OK. And it offsets things a little bit. There we go. So again, I've got a more human feel. All right, last but not least, I want to add a drum track to this. So in order to do that, I am going to add an instrument track. And track 11, I want to drag it down here at the bottom. So I just click and hold and drag it And again, I want it to be at the bottom because this is going to be my drums. Boom, I got my drums and I can't even spell right. Ooh, I like that. So over here in the browse menu, I am going to go to the drums here, basic kit, drag and drop it. Okay. Now that I'm here, it says presence again. You're going to need to name it. But there it is. I immediately like to go to the beginning. I'm going to double click and color code. I don't know what I haven't chose yet. I'm sure there's a color out there. Basically, I need to zoom in to shut this, zoom in, and I want to show you how to do, let me do 4 bars here. There we go. So there I've created my event, go to edit. I now want to get rid of all of these out of my view, and like these pencils, I can do it that way. Okay. If I still want to see them, I really don't. So there we go. So I'm only checking out the drums. Now I'm going to go to the drum view, pull open my GM drums patches. There we go. Get this out of my way. Now let me pull this down a bit. I'm going to use something called step record. This is it right here. Step record. Now I've got my instrument here ready to go. I'm going to click unable. Make sure I've got the right note. Yeah, I'm hitting it with that keyboard there. I'm checking it. It's working. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to hit enable. What I want to do is I want to put a quarter note. So I can hit boom. Okay, there it is. Now, I did that as a quarter note on measure 1. Let me scoot over here. Now, if I want to do a rest, I can hit this rest right here. And then it moves it to the next beat. Boom. And then rest, boom, rest, boom, rest, boom, rest, boom, rest, boom, rest, boom, rest. What I'm doing is step entry and everything's to the grid. Okay, it's very tight. It's by measure and by beat. Right now I'm seeing 16th notes too. I could quantize to 8th notes if I want to. Make it bigger here. There we go. Let me rewind to the beginning. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So say I want to do some hi-hats next. Let's go to close hi-hats. Tells me to hit F sharp 1. I want those as 8th notes. So here we go. And here we go. I'm just hitting them. And no matter what rhythm I play, it's going to put them exactly as 8th notes. And 3 and 4 and. There we go. Now last but not least, I'd like some snare in there. Okay, rewind again. Now with my snares, I don't want to start on beat 1. I'm going to hit rest. Now I need to change this to quarter note because it's going to throw a snare in on the 8th note. So let me back up again and hit rest. There we go. Now my snare happens to be this key right here. Okay, and then if I want to put snare in again, rest, hit, rest, hit, rest, hit, rest, hit, rest, hit. And this is called step record. Rest, hit, rest, hit. All right, there, I got kind of wild there at the end and goofed up. And then if you want to go in and edit, make sure you take off the enable thing. And so if you're listening to it, oh yeah, I love it. Okay, cool. And here at the end, it's wonderful. I love it. Notice that when I play it in step record, the velocities are by how I touch them. So I may just want to take the whole thing and turn it up a little bit if I want, or go through and tweak individual velocities. Right now I'm messing with the hi-hat velocities, but say I just want to do the snare. So here's my snare. Ooh, I might want to back a couple off a little bit. So let me grab these two and just pull them down. Here's my kicks. You know, my kicks typically need to be a little bigger. This one's kind of wimpy, so I'm going to pull it up a little bit. There we go. So that is a little bit of what's called step record as well. Finally, when I do things like that, I should save as a song file, which is Studio One file. Okay, hope this has helped you dive into some MIDI features in Studio One. Thank you. Hit like and subscribe.